Hello, my name is Kamil. I'm CEO and founder of Riverdi. Today I have a special interview for you. I'm here in Aarhus in Denmark with two guests, with Søren and Jørgen. So maybe you can introduce yourself to our viewers.
Yes, I'm Jørgen Myggen. Have been in TouchGFX team for a very long time, since 2011. We are here located in Aarhus, Denmark, as you said, in the office of our STM32 graphics team. My role here is I'm the site manager and do business development for STM32 graphics.
Hello, my name is Søren Mikkelsen, and I'm also located in the Aarhus office here in Denmark in ST. And I'm a business development manager focusing on embedded graphics on STM32.
Excellent, yes, because I forgot to mention the Aarhus is a place actually where the TouchGFX was born. Can you say a few words, how does it started?
Yeah, just a quick run through. The basic idea and the first version was created back in 2009 in the company Mjølner, just next door to our location today. Quite after this, we found out that this was a really cool graphic library, and we decided to turn it into a product. We launched the first product to the world in 2012.
Okay.
We made the spin-off from Mjølner, the Draupner graphics company, in 2014. And then the focus was 100% on developing TouchGFX and get a license business running on this. In 2018, so a bit more than 4 years ago, we were acquired by ST, and we are now forming the STM32 graphics team within ST Microelectronics.
Okay. So very interesting, very short story. So how do you see this acquisition? Was it helpful for the company? What was changed, in 2018 or from that time comparing to previous years?
Well, yes, it was very interesting and funny times being Draupner Graphics, changing to ST Microelectronics. I think the biggest change was the number of users we gain and number of users that are now using TouchGFX. I don't have the exact number, but now we are talking thousands of users. So having this...
thousands of projects, yes, probably, and maybe hundreds of thousands of users, right?
Yes, thousands of projects every day. Having this massive interest, this big community using TouchGFX, giving feedback, changed also our focus to be more mass market orientated. So I think this change was the biggest. ST invested a lot in us, so we have grown. We are a much bigger team. We are more than doubled now, and focusing on integrating TouchGFX as a good part of STM32 ecosystem. So of course we had a lot of change here, and now a well-integrated part of STM32.
Another big factor was also that we came from selling licenses, and that was our bread and butter every day. And now it's free for everyone, and it's only for STM32. So this also changed a lot, and we are more, or let's say, freed up to really pursue what we believe the product should be, and not pursue the short-term money. So that's also something which has changed a lot and really made it possible to develop a really good product and focus on product development and not chasing revenue.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, acquisition by ST helped you to scale first, so you are able to reach more customers, then help to double the team even, yes, to increase the resources, and actually make the library free, yes, so it was paid before, and now it's completely free, no fees at all, like
Zero fees.
Zero fees.
But only for STM32 microcontrollers.
Okay.
Yes.
And can you pay and use it for the other platforms, or still is only STM32 supported?
Only STM32.
Or only, so free, but only STM32.
Yeah.
So it's a full focus on STM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, of course. Okay, so that's very interesting. So what are the main benefits for the users when using the TouchGFX? Why do you need the graphic library in the first place for MCU?
So TouchGFX was developed for microcontrollers. So for a really cost-optimized platform where you want to run an embedded GUI. So imagine an oven or a coffee machine or your smartwatch, and you want to put a UI on this. You don't want to use a big MPU and a big GPU. This is what TouchGFX is all about, that you can do great graphics on minimum resources. So it's a C++ framework, and it's highly integrated into the ST ecosystem. So with CubeMX and CubeIDE and everything like this, which really helps the developer to take their idea to product and to prototype really fast and easy. So TouchGFX is about, I would say, ease of use, high performance, and well integrated into the ST ecosystem. Okay, can we stop a little bit here? Just like to explain to our listeners about the CubeIDE you mentioned, CubeMX you mentioned also TouchGFX Designer and the TouchGFX library itself. Can you describe a few words of each of the two? Yeah, so you buy an STM32 microcontroller, okay, and you get a lot of free software tools. So the basis is STM32 CubeMX. This is a configurator for your microcontroller for the pinout, and you have Cube firmware, which is the drivers and the initialization of the microcontroller. So like more like on the hardware side or close to the hardware side? Yeah, yes. Okay, CubeMX. And then you have CubeIDE also, which is an IDE. So, which is free. Of course, we have users for IR and Kyle and so on, but CubeIDE is from ST and also free, and then TouchGFX also. So you actually have all the main ingredients for embedded development. But what exactly is CubeIDE? That's an integrated development environment for coding and the project setup and IDE. Oh, sorry, that's my okay. So it's like a full. Yeah.
So a very comprehensive ecosystem on top of the hardware, the STM32 hardware. ST is providing, more or less a full suite of development tools, where TouchGFX is just one part for GUI development. Okay. You mentioned that you can run the TouchGFX on the MCU that is a low resources, yes, and you can make a sophisticated graphic with that. So can you tell a bit more about the resources needed? I mean, first maybe the platforms that you can run. So all of the STM32 can cover the TouchGFX or not? Yeah, more or less all STM32 platforms. But what we are prepared for is all Cortex M4, M33, or actually starting from G0. So meaning Cortex M0 plus core, and up to the H7, so meaning Cortex M7. So all these microcontrollers on these cores will be able to run TouchGFX. Okay. And the small microcontrollers like G0 series, they don't have a TFT controller, yes? So then you need external frame buffer, as I understand, yes, for the display. External in a display. Yes. Well, if you want to run an embedded GUI with an STM32, there are plenty of different, let's say, frame buffer strategies. And one of them is if you want to run an SPI display or a parallel display which has a DRAM, then you have this, let's say, one full frame buffer inside the display, but you need somewhere to compose it. And we do this, for example, in the G0 inside the microcontroller, where you have a small amount of SRAM, but with a special feature called partial frame buffer in TouchGFX. You have a partial update you transfer to the full GRAM or the full frame buffer on the display, only requiring around 16 kilobyte of SRAM. You can scale up and down, but yeah. Okay. And then the frame buffer, of course, the DRAM, I mean, in the display is larger to cover the whole screen. Yes. But you don't need this copy into a microcontroller, yes? So you are like generating it dynamically, yes? Partially. Yes, partially. So you don't need an external SDRAM or
Octo SPI RAM.
Okay, so if I have a display with a small size, let's say, and I have a GRAM, that is a RAM for one frame on the display, I can use just STM32 G0 without any external RAM?
Yes.
Okay, so just internal
you need only,
memory.
from 6 kilobyte of RAM for the internal partial frame buffer, and then a little bit for the framework.
So even the smallest M0 with the small RAM can run it. Okay, excellent. So what's the smallest footprint of the library that I can use? I mean, in terms of RAM, you said 6 or 16 kilobytes for the RAM, and then what about the flash? How much I need memory for that?
Yeah, so for the RAM, I think it's around the frame buffer would be using the partial frame buffer feature.
Partial.
The around 6 or 8 kilobyte. The framework itself, that would be around 10 kilobytes. So 16, as you said. For the flash, I think it's around 60. From around 60 kilobytes, depending on the size of the application we are talking.
And that's only, let's say, this is apart from the assets. So of course, if you want to have a background, buttons, sliders, everything like this is, let's say, very dependent on the applications you are doing. So yeah, we cannot say this, but 1 megabyte to 40, 50 megabytes, if you want to do a big resolution and 24-bit per pixel maybe. So very dependent. But the library itself is highly optimized for low memory usage.
And the footprint, I mean the compiled size, really depend on what I select. Yes, inside the TouchGFX Designer. Like if I select buttons or no buttons or like sliders, then the footprint will be different.
Yes, so all the widgets has a different footprint. So if you use all the widgets, then you have a bigger footprint, of course.
Okay, yes. So if I don't use them, they are not compiled into the bin file.
Correct.
Okay, that's super interesting. Yep. Okay, so here we are on the low end, let's say, of STM32, which will be G0 Cortex M0 Plus. Yes, that you can run. And then you mentioned up to H7, which is very powerful microcontroller. Yes, combining 2 cores. Yes, M7 and 4, up to 500 or 480 megahertz or 550. Yes.
550 is the highest frequency.
Okay. Yeah. And then we can connect their external SDRAM. And what does it give us if we have like, you know, unlimited memory or like way more memory and the high performance MCU? So
in a lot of designs, if you want to target high resolution and high color depth, this requires more memory. So in a lot of cases, if you go, for example, 800 480, you go to external memories like an SDRAM, Hyper RAM, it could be, where you place the frame buffer. So in many cases you have double frame buffering, which would require some megabytes, depending on the size, of course, and how many buffers you have, 1 or 2, or maybe a video buffer also. So very dependent on, and again, on your strategy you put forward and the level of performance you want to achieve.
Okay, so again, from low end we have a partial frame buffer, like single kilobytes even, and then the GRAM in the display. And then when we go up, we can go to the high resolution and the frame buffer in an external memory connected to the microcontroller. So with the single buffer or double buffer, right?
Well, I would say there's a step after, just before this. So in the STM32 H7 series, there are some microcontrollers with a lot of SRAM, so you can actually fit 1 or 2 full frame buffers inside this and avoid having SDRAM. But sometimes it makes sense to move it outside if you require more memory for other type of applications. So it's very flexible. So you have this step, let's say, partial frame buffering, single frame buffer, double frame buffer. Placed internally, externally.
Yeah. Okay. And when we talk about frame buffers, we can have partial, single, or double. What are the differences that the user, let's say, will experience later?
Well, first of all, I would say the double frame buffer is the default. Here you will have, you can display 1 frame buffer while you are preparing the next frame. So this is the standard way of doing embedded graphics. but it requires more memory. So sometimes you will have a constraint on this, and you will push it down to maybe one single frame buffer or even a partial frame buffer. And having a double frame buffer, yeah, you are avoiding tearing effects, artifacts on the display, which you will avoid. You can have tearing effects or showing maybe two frames in the same display at the same time. Of course, this is what you not want to have. So this is something, what you will have of performance going for the double frame buffer. You will avoiding these tearing effects.
Okay, so your recommendation is double frame buffer. You said it's a default.
This is default, yes.
If you have
it is
memory.
default, but it is very dependent on what kind of UI you want to build. So are you only showing a screen with a text and a button? That is very simple, but do you want to do a full screen transition, or do you want to rotate or scroll the full screen and so on? Then you might require more frame or 2 frame buffers instead of 1.
Okay.
So very dependent on what you actually want to do on the UI itself.
Okay. And you mentioned few tools that you can use or you need to use, but what is actually required? I mean, how advanced you are with the tools that you provide to the users? I mean, if I'm not very experienced embedded engineer and I have an idea for a device, for sure I need a TouchGFX Designer, yes, which is like what you see is what you get, Designer. But do I need all the other tools, or can I just make my at least user interface part into the TouchGFX Designer without knowing how to code? Actually, if I'm not the C++ programmer.
Yes, I would say so. If you target prototyping, there's a lot of development boards available from ST and from partners. An example is Riverdi modules. You can buy them off the shelf, and they have, let's say, a TouchGFX board set up ready. So everything is done for you. So all you need to do is actually to drag and drop the widgets and the bitmaps and the assets you're using on these. So you can actually do a UI simply by drag and dropping and flashing your board. That is achievable. Of course, the level of customization you want to do, then it might require you to do C++ coding.
So for the initial prototyping, starting your GUI project, the only thing you need is TouchGFX Designer, a ST kit or a Riverdi kit, where the TBS is available, the low-level part, and you can get going. To make a full project production ready, yes, you will need to do some C++ coding.
Yes.
Okay, if I want to design my own board from scratch.
Yeah, there is, I would say there are 2 tracks, so you can do your own design, your own PCB and everything, or you can go to a company like Riverdi and other partners where you buy a module off the shelf where this is already done.
And provided in the software, so then I focus only on the user interface application.
And the idea with the TouchGFX is to put the developer in control, having the TouchGFX Designer, the GUI tool, to support him, but also let him do what he wants, make everything possible. So it is a mix of using the TouchGFX GUI builder and doing C++ coding.
Okay. And I have seen quite a lot of demo applications already on TouchGFX. But if you can describe for our listeners, can you build a GUI like Android-like or like iOS-like tablet or phone based on TouchGFX and MCU, which obviously has a way lower performance than the processors in tablets or phones nowadays? Can we do something similar for the user and will look similar and will have the performance and
a bit depending on the resources available, which microcontroller you choose. The whole idea is to bring smartphone look and feel into the microcontroller area. So yes, you can have standard animations, full screen transitions, swipe. As you know from your Android or iOS application, scrolling list and all this, So more or less, you can have the same feeling as you have from your smartphone, with some few limitations, but you're close.
Okay, and obviously with the way lower price and way lower resources and design is also more simple.
Much more simple PCB electronics, and if you are a developer from the embedded, much easier to cope with than moving to MPU PCB and electronics.
Okay, one more question about like color support, because I'm a display fan and freak, so I really care about the display quality. How does it look, like the brightness that we even discussed today, how the image is looking, colors, viewing angles, and everything. So, is there a support for 24-bit in a library as well for the media and the, let's say, signals and anything like that?
For sure, and I would say this is often used, the 24-bit color depth, but this is also something that is requiring resources. So for saving resources, sometimes it makes sense to go down to 16, maybe even 8, or maybe even less, to have a really good performance on really low resource devices. So this is something one should consider to select the right color depth for your application.
You can actually do a lot on 16-bit per pixel, or even 8. You have a good graphics designer, you can do a great UI. And I think a lot of people would be surprised by the color depth used on some applications, even on the phone, not using 24-bit per pixel or 16 even. So you can do a lot with simple colors also.
Okay, so you say it's supported, you can do it, but then you need more resources, and actually it's worth to try, because you may be surprised how good 16-bit could be, right?
Yes, I would say many of our customers' applications are using 24-bit, also with good performance.
Definitely, yes.
But this is something you should consider.
Yes, and sometimes, let's say, moving from 24 to 16 could mean that you could fit internally in the frame buffer in the microcontroller itself. Or if you have, let's say, if you are on external, you move to 24 because you need the XD color. So it's quite flexible, and you can go through colors. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Now I will go a little bit like further into the future, not maybe future of the library itself, but do you plan to add any other components? Because as I understand, TouchGFX is a graphic library, right? So we focus mainly on the user interface, but do you plan to add into your team also other components, maybe combine some IoT connectivity or like Ethernet stack, TCP, IP, etc., that will be integrated, that I can just drag and drop maybe this component and I have the connectivity here as well?
No, the team here, we are focusing on the HMI, on the GUI.
On the GUI side.
Yes. So we do not have this in our roadmap. But in general, the STM32 offer for stacks and for software in general, we are...
So it's supported by just the other teams, right?
Yeah,
and then you can combine it from...
Yeah. So the software support and the software part of STM32 is continuously growing.
Okay, that's good to hear. And maybe I will go now a little bit to the competitors. The TouchGFX is not the only library on the market. We have others. So how would you say you differentiate from them? Some of them are free, probably. Some of them are paid. You are a free library, as we already discussed. Can you compare maybe to some?
This has changed a lot. So when we were TouchGFX or an independent company, they were competitors because we were fighting for the same customers. But today, our business is silicon, and it's very important for us that our customers they choose and select the library which they see fit. So if TouchGFX is the right choice for them, of course we fully support them. But if they want to use Crank or Qt or Embedded Wizard, LVGL, that's something we also support them in, and there are plenty of examples, demos, and so on. So of course TouchGFX is you have an integration into QBMX which can help you in the way of making it easy to develop and generate the abstraction layer to run TouchGFX on STM32. But we do not see them as competitors. We see them as an enrichment of the STM32 offering for embedded graphics overall. So you can go to our partner GUI software, and you have all the platforms supported there also.
So these partners, they are a part of the STM32 graphics ecosystem. And we also here in our office are supporting them in running, having good performance on STM32.
Okay, got it. So like you said, the long-term goal is a silicon, and then you don't need to fight for the like short-term profits from projects. You can focus more like on the really good library development.
Yes, and yet develop bring to the market a solution which is answering the customer needs, and really listen to what our customer and what the market is demanding for, and develop a solution for this, and have the time for it and have the resources for it. I think that was one of the big changes going into ST.
Okay, super. So we already discussed that if you are not, let's say, very advanced hardware company, but you have an idea for the device, you can buy a module. Like Riverdi is one of the examples. You can buy a module that is pre-prepared and has the configuration file. So you don't need to play with the hardware or hardware configuration even. You just can start your own application. But what if you can't or you don't want to do even that? I mean, you just want to build your own device and you need support to prepare the user interface. How customers can approach this? I mean, do you do that, or you have some partners to develop like the full application from this side?
Yes.
We have the software library partners, we have module partners, we also have development houses which support customers in the development of a GUI. This is not something ST is taking on. So here we are working with our former, where we have all started in Vilna is just one of them, and we are having regular calls and meetings with these partners. We will soon launch a program called STM32 Experts, and here they will be a part of this. We will also invite more partners to be a part of this program, enlarging the STM32 graphic ecosystem.
Okay.
So the offering from the partners we bring to, for example, for TouchGFX experts, they have, let's say, different know-how. Some of them, they can maybe start all the way from ideation and proof of concept. Some of them are more hardware related in PCB design and so on, TouchGFX development. So it's different profiles of the companies addressing different needs from our customers, and also having in mind that you need to be local sometimes. So we have presence in EMEA region and AME region, and also in APAC region of these kind of experts.
Okay, and how to find a partner like that if I'm looking for?
They are on the ST website, under the partner program, also on the GUI page on st.com. And we will, when we introduce the new program, this will also be pushed out on a bigger scale.
Okay,
but you can find them on st.com today.
Okay, so they are recommended by you and checked, and that's
yes.
You have regular meeting with them, so they are very up to date with the TouchGFX development.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Super. So we are getting to an end shortly, but a few more questions. Like, let's look into the future. Maybe you can share a little bit what will be the next, let's say, release, when it may happen, and what will be included there. Maybe like next release, and maybe something that you really think in a long term for, let's say, next year development for TouchGFX. What else we can expect that will be available?
Yeah, we will not reveal too much. We don't have a big official roadmap, but we will around end of this year we will have the next release out for 21. we'll have some exciting news on this.
Release 4.21. Okay.
TouchGFX 4.21. Yes, yes. And the content of this, I think we should wait.
I think so too.
Before we will, but it's quite a big release we will have here, and we have a really big team in office here, and also in other ST offices doing graphics. So we are a strong team, having big plans for the future, bringing improved software solution for GUI development. I can assure you on this one.
Okay, but you can tell me what exactly, right? But it will be graphic related things?
Yes, this is...
Yes, yeah, we are on a mission to make it easier for our customers to develop an embedded GUI, essentially. So yeah.
But it won't be simple, like more widgets, something else.
We have been developing more widgets, and we will continue on this. And at some stage, we will also make bigger steps.
Okay,
that's correct.
So when we may expect some release or likely release note about it, what will be included in the 421?
When it gets there.
Yeah.
So that will be end of year.
End of year,
yes.
Not sooner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just end of year.
Yeah.
And like long-term plan for the library? Just develop the better GUI, faster, more widgets, or anything else?
Good question. So it's all about what our customers need. So a big part of the job of Jürgen and myself is to go to customers, listen to them, what do they need a year from now, 2 years from now. So maybe TouchGFX will change, maybe the offering will change. Short term, we will keep on the track, but maybe this will change next year or in 2 years.
But ease of use is of course really important. This is what we hear from all our users, and getting very good inputs of improvements.
Yeah.
So ease of use is really high priority.
Okay, so now the simple question, what should you do to get the TouchGFX?
Go to st.com/GUI and then you can find a download link for the package Xcube TouchGFX. It's free to download and free to use.
I can just download, I don't need to register my project or
you need to log in, have a login on st.com to get it, yeah. And to agree to the terms and conditions, and then you can freely use it for prototyping, for development, for in production.
For mass production as well?
Yes.
No fee, we discussed this, yes? So
yeah.
Now and for the...
So just click through license, really simple, same as the STM32 hardware and other software. We are under the standard license terms. So it's really easy to get started. Just download from TouchGFX.
But it's not an open source library?
No.
No.
Some part of it is precompiled.
It's precompiled, okay. Yes. Some parts of it that you handle on. Okay. So maybe last question, what will be the first steps? I mean, we know how to get the TouchGFX library, easy, but what to do to start your own development? What will be the first steps?
We would recommend that you find a suitable STM32 discovery kit or a kit from a partner, which is, let's say, equivalent or close to what you want to do with prototyping or your end product. And then we have a lot of kits available inside TouchGFX Designer. So you can, it's a plug and play solution. So if it's available in TouchGFX Designer, you can plug it into your PC, develop your UI and flash it immediately. So I would recommend that you find one of the kits available in the designer you can use, build a UI or try some of the demos you that already are available inside TouchGFX Designer, and then flash it and try it and see the performance and play with it, try the widgets, start out with drag and drop with a background, some buttons, and to see and feel it. It's quite easy, quite fast. A few steps you're actually there on the hardware, which is mind-blowing for a lot of people.
And you can do all of that from TouchGFX directly. I mean, like create some GUI, even simple, and then just run
From the TouchGFX Designer.
Okay, you don't need to switch to some kind of programmer, send the hex file somewhere there, or whatever.
It is using the QPO.
Make a linker, make file, nothing like that.
All prepared.
All prepared.
So find your STM32 kit. Could be from Riverdi that are supported in the TouchGFX Designer, or ST kits as well. So with this you're off very fast.
Okay, fantastic. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this information. That's super interesting. And hope to see the development and the next release. For sure, we'll be checking that.
We are excited to reveal it in a month or two.
Yes. And great to have you here in the ST site in Denmark.
Yeah. Thank you for visiting us.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay.
Take care.
Want to learn more about Riverdi products? Please visit our page riverdi.com. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Our team is always there to help and guide you. And please remember to subscribe Riverdi YouTube channel. See you later in our next video.